Today, to keep up with the latest looks, the first place we turn is to our screens.
More and more followers of fashion appear to be under the influence.
Today, it's a two-dimensional world right in front of your face. That's where most influence comes from.
These days, we swipe and scroll. But what about back when the only screens were storefront windows?
At the turn of the century, up through the 20s and 30s, that was kind of an active process. You'd get out on the street. Looking in department store windows was actually a form of entertainment. It was a fun thing to do.
Mannequin became a three-dimensional representation of these stars. So they became the influencers of the day. They modeled the hats, the clothing, the design. They would dress their mannequins up in styles of the day. They used them in kind of family settings, real life settings.
Mannequins were very early influencers of fashion. People could see them. They could walk along the street and see what's happening today in the world of fashion.
What's the matter? Don't you like your new scarf?
Not especially.
Modern mannequins can look a little like modern art. But in the 20s and 30s, they looked as real as the waxworks at Madame Tussauds.
The materials they used in the early wax mannequins, well, all through their manufacture almost, was wax for the skin tones, porcelain, normally teeth, and glass eyes. Real human hair was normally what they used, quite often implanted by hand, hair by hair. And these were important because they were realistic, and realism was the goal. Wax revolutionized the head of the mannequin. It made them look like a real person. They're so dynamic and so lifelike that when they wear a period dress next to a car that was manufactured in the same year as the dress, the era just leaps out at you.
Mannequins were based on the celebrities of the day. Actresses, dancers, and models.
And for us at the Fountainhead Antique Auto Museum, these individuals actually jump, if you will, out of history because they are three-dimensional. They are real people in 1900, real people in 1910, and it's as if they step out of their time period into the mid-2020s.
For instance, we have a bust made by the great manicure manufacturer Pierre Imans. He had a favorite model named Gaby Delise. She was a French actress, singer, stage performer, very popular. He actually called that bust Gaby, after her. And that was a common thing to do. Manufacturers would frequently give their creations names, not just model numbers. And quite often that would be the name of the model.
It's an exciting day at the Fountainhead Antique Auto Museum because the final part of a brand new mannequin has just arrived.
We've just received our 9th full wax mannequin. Her name is Claudette. All of our wax mannequins have names. She's out, and the trick, of course, is to get into this package without doing any damage to the mannequin. And she has flown about 9,000 miles, so don't expect her to look her best. Sounds like my morning stretching exercises. Layer after layer. Bonjour, Claudette.
So we started the Fountainhead Museum as its primary focus being automobiles, specifically technology. But as we worked on that, it became more apparent that we needed to connect the people who drove these cars and the historic photo collection that we have in the museum. We needed to bring the people who were in the photos to life on the floor of the museum.
Seeing fashion right next to automobiles doesn't just add context. it helps illustrate the influence one had on the other.
In a general way, fashion, automobile design, art, architecture, all these things were interrelated and influenced each other and appeared in various movements like Belle Epoque, Art Nouveau, Art Deco, and so on. But specifically within the realm of the automobile, it was influenced by fashion to a certain extent in some ways.
Yeah, fashion influenced electric cars in that women wore large dresses and wore large hats. And it was difficult for them to move in open cars without taking their hat off and putting on a new outfit. Usually it was some kind of duster and would involve maybe a tight-fitting hat that would come out over their ears, and maybe some face covering as well, because the roads were very dirty. There were lots of bugs. There's dirt and dust, and they would want to keep that off of their fancy garments. But the industry developed for cars that women drove. Electric cars were the most popular, and they often, in most cases, were enclosed. And they had a very tall ceiling. They would look almost like an elongated telephone box on wheels. And they could get in and out of these cars with their hats on and with their garments on, and they were protected because they had glass or surrounding them.
And quite often you'll see chauffeur-driven electric cars that have front seats that actually swivel, which allow the lady to chat with a friend in the passenger seat in the front, but also makes more room for that big dress to get in and out.
Very often we get people whose first impression of the Fountainhead Museum is that they've stepped back in time. And these mannequins, these wax mannequins that are 100 years old and older, are real part of that presentation. This is not just an auto museum. This is a time machine, and you can put yourself in their place. We so often are told by visitors here at the museum, they've never been to a place like this. It's unique.
Here at the Fountainhead Antique Auto Museum, we have so much content we want to share with you. Please, please, please like, comment, and subscribe right now.